Holistic Spotlight. My co-host is Doris Ann, and we're here with Roland Comtois, who's returned for another show this year, we're very happy to say. Roland is a world-known medium and known throughout the country, and he talks to people and advises them by phone also. And his topic this evening is of his own choosing, and the topic is heaven.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you again for inviting me back here. This is a great forum to at least introduce all kinds of incredible things to those that are watching there.
Right.
You know, as I was thinking about coming here today, there were lots of things that were crossing my mind about having this conversation. And often I'm asked on my travels about heaven. Is there a place? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And some of the things that have occurred in the last 10 years are just extraordinary about opening the doors to that place. I know now with conviction that there is a place there, that there is a place there, that heaven is in here, that it's all around me, that every moment is filled with that heavenly energy. But when it comes to the afterlife, there is definitely a place that we venture towards to complete our mission and journey, to fulfill the soul's purpose, to create a healing energy within ourselves. And so there is a place out there.
And what is heaven like?
You know, I have to tell you that 10 years ago, I was with my cousin, and I was doing a small group event for her. And all of a sudden, I was sitting at the table and I was not there. She said I was gone. She touched my skin and said that I felt like my grandfather had died 20 years before with cold skin. She thought that I was gone. It was only seconds, milliseconds it felt like to her, but for me, I left my body and I saw before me this extraordinary light. And I saw the light as if it was calling to me. And I continued to look at the light, and I knew that it was leading me somewhere. And then I began to see this extraordinary, what looked like a staircase, and I knew that it would take me up further to a higher dimension of energy. For me, it was extraordinary. I walked up these glorious stairs to a place that was full of love, full of healing, full of nurturing. I remember very distinctly that as I approached the staircase, I placed my feet upon the first stair, and everything that I was at that moment became very real to me. Every pain and every suffering, every joyful, every blissful moment was there in my moment. And as I walked higher and higher up the staircase, I could see these angels and guides and spirits welcoming me home. And so heaven is a journey. It's not just popping up to one place. You know, often people say to me, because you're gone, I'm there. Well, there is this transition that you go through from here to there.
But you felt welcome.
Oh my God, it was extraordinary.
Okay.
I was welcomed from the time that I left my body till the time that I saw this beautiful door, and I remember it so clearly that I opened the door, and as I walked through this place, I felt the breath of God, divine light, just encapsulate me completely. And I went through this threshold of energy. I remember stepping onto what felt like cotton. It was so soft, and every part of me was welcomed. I still saw my body. I still knew it was me. I saw my grandmother to the right of me.
Right.
She was looking at me. She was standing there. I saw people that I had known in life.
So you did see people right
did.
away.
I did see them.
You
Were
recognized.
you in heaven at that point,
Well,
or you're on your way?
You're on your way, you
On
know.
your way to.
There's these
Okay.
there's a staircase. You know, let me just share a story with you. I was doing a session for a woman in Stamford, Connecticut, and I read a passage from my book to her, and it was about seeing the stairs just at the time of death. And I told the story to her, and she started to cry. She said the last thing that her father told her before he passed away was, he said, "Don't worry, honey, I can see the stairs and the light." And then he passed away.
Okay.
And she knew without a doubt at that moment that there is a place that we go to when we leave our physical body.
You know, this is very important, I think, for you to be telling this to our listeners tonight. I had a client recently, and he said, I really am so afraid of passing over. And this is a person who has raised children, paid his bills, been a good person, and like, why is this man afraid?
In my visions of this, Some of us walk up the stairs slower than others.
Okay.
Some of us that are of the pure spirit, good
Right.
soul, they kind of go a little faster up the staircase, is how I
That's
envisioned it.
interesting.
It depends on what you have to fix and finish. And you know what I realized? It took me a little time to get up the staircase.
Okay.
I had a few things that I was working through apparently, and
Right.
and I realized that it was just a
Well,
walk.
this is what I've often wondered, if the people who think they're good are so good, and if the people who are considered so bad. Now, I had worked in the prisons, and I felt that there were many men there that did things for other men, that when you're so down and out, to turn and try to teach a man to read, or try to share a newspaper, or to try to give helpful advice about their families, that this, when you're locked in, to do that is worth a lot for spiritual growth.
It definitely helps your spiritual energy. It
Right.
definitely helps you as you leave the
Right.
physical.
That nobody's all bad. And I had recently heard or read in the newspaper about these are the bad people. I don't think all the bad people are the people in prison. I don't think they did good things to get there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's the bad that really hurt so many people as many people out here have done.
You know, from my experience in this vision, I saw those that did not do all the things that they were supposed to do and
Okay.
fulfill their
Right.
purpose, go very slow up that staircase. Because we pass away and we leave our physical, we don't just go there for the sake of going there.
Right,
We still
right.
have free will. We still
Right.
have free will. I mean, I remember walking up each, you know, June, I will never forget this. I remember stepping on each step, and I get emotional telling the story that even the parts of me that were in sorrow, I could feel them healing because I chose the healing at that moment.
Okay.
That the things that were not complete here in the physical, we still have a chance to complete them at the staircase. You know, sometimes people call it the light. They're seeing the light, and
Right.
I saw it as a staircase. I know it was light because each step I took
I think
brought beautiful
even
things.
as you get older, you have regrets about things you didn't do. I regret some of the opportunities that I didn't do things that could have helped people. And I say, why didn't I see that?
I think that when it's time to get there, it will be the regret that will be healed because you have been of great service in your life. And so I think that it all works out to your benefit, if you will,
right.
those wonderful things that you do. And it's not, you know, I thought about this yesterday on my drive home from New York. And I stopped at McDonald's to get something to drink. And the woman was so kind and gentle to me. She said, have a great day. And I thought, that's a good thing to do.
Yes.
And she
yes.
was pleasant and wonderful and nice, and I thought, that's going to help, you know?
Right.
And me waving to some guy on the street or
Right.
saying hello to someone.
You know,
That's
I think
definitely
this is
true.
very important, a message that and Doris is big on the interconnectedness of all of us.
Yes.
But I do think during the times when you're down and out and you're so focused on yourself, by smiling to a stranger or being kind to someone,
Gets you out of that
gets you
mode.
out of that.
Yeah,
That
it does.
changes the way you're thinking.
Right.
It takes
It
you,
does.
because if you become that unsettledness
Right.
or you're anxious
Right.
or nervous or upset, you become that energy. That is
Right.
who you are. And if you hold that too long, you're not going to be able
And
to
it's
grow
almost an
spiritually.
ego thing, being too
Yeah.
concerned with yourself, when what we
Absolutely.
have to do is move out
It's-
soul to soul.
It's like seeing the other.
Yes.
Seeing the other. Now, you talked about heaven. Now, is heaven inside you also?
It is.
Well, explain that to me.
I knew that when I made it to the top of the stairs, that what I realized was that I am still who I was at the bottom. I was still loving and nurturing and
That's a
kind
very
and
good point.
gentle. And I realized that I really realized this when I came back into my body. I remember my cousin was just about to call 911.
Okay.
When something happened, she said I was
So it was
no
that
longer cold, my skin was warm, and I realized that heaven had been sitting in me the whole time, that if I had the courage to look inside myself,
Right.
I would see the heavens that are out there.
So are you encouraging everybody to do just
I
that?
am.
Look
I
inside
am.
yourself.
I am.
And what are you looking for? You're looking for the heaven, or you're looking for the connection? What are
I
you
think
looking
it's all
for?
the same. I'm looking for the peacefulness of who I am and the light that I bring to humanity, to the light that I bring to this world. And the more that I see that, the stronger I will become.
I see.
Right, and to move
That makes
away
sense.
from like nitty-gritty
Yeah,
worries,
yeah.
those
Right.
little things we can't control,
Yeah.
and to let God, like the saying, let go,
Let go, let God, yeah. And you know, we all are human, so
Right.
we're going to have
We
our
can't help-
moments when our anxieties and our tensions are going to
Right.
guide us for that moment.
That's
but
right.
as long as we don't give
Dwell.
our power to all of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I came back, I saw this, I sobbed for about 5 minutes. I mean,
Okay.
intense crying, because it felt so good there. I felt
Oh,
loved.
okay,
I
and
felt
then-
whole. I felt complete.
It's like a safe.
It was
you felt
very
safe.
safe.
But
It
you
was
were
very
now,
beautiful.
now you had to come back to realize almost a pain of
Yeah.
living.
Yeah, definitely. And this is where I began to see that heaven is inside of me, that if
Mm-hmm.
I
see.
have the courage to see that in me, that light, the positive energies, the
Mm-hmm.
good parts of me, that's going to help me on my path here and will help me when I move forward there.
Now, what about this fifth dimension? We're supposed to be moving toward a fifth dimension.
I think there are many dimensions of energy.
All right.
Recently, in some vision that I had, I was sitting at a table, and all of a sudden I felt this surge of energy, and I felt the hand of God, if you will, or love, if you will, come into this place that I was. And all of a sudden I felt the presence of what felt like angels and beings of high ascended energy coming to bring love to us. And so the fifth dimension to me is one place of many places that are out there that are filled with extraordinary energy. And I think, again, if we have the courage to open ourselves to everything that is there, then everything that we need is going to be presented to us here, so
Right.
that we can complete our purpose and mission in life.
Okay, it's hard to have courage always. And it's hard to not be fearful.
You know, that's true. And I see a lot of people. I see thousands
Right.
of people a year, and someone will come to me and say, well, how do I maintain that? How do I
Right.
how do I get there? I tell everyone to keep with them a sacred reminder. For
a
example,
good
in
idea.
my wallet, I have a key.
Okay?
I have a key. And when I get lost on my path, I remember in my wallet that there is a key to my path, to my journey. So it's a sacred reminder.
It's a refocusing.
It
It's
gets me
refocusing.
back on track.
Yes.
I
saying that.
carry my father's wallet from 1925.
Those are reminders.
yes.
Right.
And all of us need to carry with us
That's
these
great.
reminders.
That's great.
That
Because
there's
sometimes
another world
we
and
need a
that there's-
push.
Right, we need
Need
a
a
push.
We need a push.
Well, it's to break the chain of if we're feeling unhappy about something. It's breaking the chain
Yes.
because it's refocusing.
Yeah.
What about the reading you gave for the woman yesterday in Stanford, the different language? I thought that was fascinating.
There were a couple of people that had come in from Russia for
Oh.
some sessions yesterday in Connecticut, and I was sitting there with the two of them, and there was a translator there, and her son only spoke Russian, and I could hear the words in English because I only speak English.
And how did he die, the son?
He passed away in a very tragic car accident, and I
Oh.
described to them the events of that day, and I kept hearing him say babushka, babushka, like this, and
Yeah.
you know, and I have no idea what that meant, but at the end of the session, they told me that it meant grandmother, that he wanted his grandmother to know that he was okay. He was really speaking to his grandmother. And this young guy died with his cousin. They both died at the same time, and it was a very
sad.
tragic event. But his parents felt some peace because they knew that they were together. They knew that they had found a beautiful place out there, and that they were okay, and that they were able to communicate. And then they went back to Russia in the same day.
Okay.
because-
And were
Wow.
the people comforted by the connection? You know, I often think it's so hard to lose a child.
Oh, it's gonna be real.
How do people feel a constant communication then with the person? Or do you know?
Well, first of all, I don't know if everybody is comforted. Not everybody tells me.
Okay.
I know that
true.
when I'm sitting there with them, I can tell maybe by looking at them if they've made a connection that's necessary.
Okay.
I often get emails from people saying that it helped a little bit. And so I know that it's comforting in some level. But the pain
pain.
that I witness when
Yeah,
I'm sitting
right.
with someone who's lost a child is
It's so-
beyond words. I can't
Right.
even
Can't
give you
put it
a
in
word
words.
to
I know.
describe
I
that.
often wondered how they
Right.
keep on living, and
I met one woman in another town in Darien, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I did a presentation there, and both her children, her only two children, were both killed
Oh,
by drunk drivers.
oh my gosh.
And I sat with her, and they died a year apart from each other.
Oh,
and
my
I said
word.
to her, how is it that you are able to survive and go every
That's right.
single day? Tell me how,
Right.
so that I can pass that on to someone else. And she said to me, she never forgets them. She
Okay.
always talks to them.
Oh, all
She
right, they're
always
there.
reaches out to them. She always searches for them. She knows without doubt that they're in here, always in there,
Oh, right.
and that they're always within her grasp. And
All
so she
right.
was comforted by the
By that.
fact that they are still there, that death is just a step to another place. Death is as if you're sitting in another room. And,
Right.
and when you get to greet and meet each other, it's going to be like
Wonderful.
they're there.
You can't communicate with words, but you can communicate heart to heart.
Oh, death does not sever the heart.
Right,
Never.
that's- yeah.
It never breaks apart
The
love,
bond.
the bond of love.
Yep.
And I've said this many times to many people, that the love that you start here, the love that is made
Right.
of bliss and joy
Right.
and respect and honor, does not die.
And once,
true.
even for people who have many marriages, people that die or divorce, the love that they have, they will find again there on that level. Because some
it's
people
true.
say to me, well, gee, how will I be with the other wife, in that world? And then I say to them, you will know the love you've known with him. She will know the love she's known with him.
It's true.
Because love is its own entity.
Yeah.
And that same love pertains to our pets. That
Oh,
same
that's
love
good.
pertains to our pets. And maybe 15 years ago, I forgot the timeline now, a woman sat in my very first office, probably one of my very first clients, sat there and was sobbing. And all of a sudden, I visualized a little dog. It looked like, I can't even tell you what kind of dog because I don't know dogs, but it was a little dog with short fur, and I was describing the dog to her, and I started talking about the dog like the dog was right there, and I knew without a doubt that at that moment that the love between a pet owner and the dog does not break as well. That bond is unbreakable.
I think this is very important because this is what people have often asked about, do I see my pet again? And I do think both Doris and I know, having lost pets,
Yes.
and we write poems to them and recite them, and that there is something about the sadness of losing a pet that is extremely painful.
Yes.
I have sat with a lot of people who have lost pets, and comparatively, and this, I don't mean to put out anything about this, but when you're talking about a loss of a child and a loss of a pet, for some people it's the same energy.
I know, even
It's
though
the
we
same-
can't compare it
Right,
to,
there's no
to the
comparison to
person.
it,
No,
but
there
it's
is
the
none.
same energy.
Right.
Because love is love.
Love is love.
Love is
You know,
love.
if it's from here,
Right.
It's from
it's
the-
going to be
that's
from here no matter what
Right.
it is,
That's
whatever
right.
the experience is. I did a presentation, and a woman came in, and she had a bag full of stuff, and just before I prepared, I heard in my head these bells ringing, and I said, someone brought the bells, and she brought her horse's bells or something like this, and I thought for a moment, am I really talking to the horse? And I thought, I thought for a minute maybe it was a little hypoglycemic or something, but I realized and come to understand that the love of a horse, a love of a cat, a love of a dog
Is still love.
is
Love is love.
unbreakable.
Yes.
That animal has a soul. That animal
I
has a
believe-
soul. It has a vibration of energy. It crosses over to the other side. There is a kingdom there. There is a place there where our animals go to.
And we can see them then when we pass over. If we ask to see them, they come to us, or
Absolutely.
they come to us
Absolutely.
like just
Yeah.
if we were calling them.
Absolutely. You had a beautiful communication here with them. why
That's
can't you
right.
have that same experience with
Right.
their heart and soul there?
That's right.
Right.
You see, I don't see it differently. I think it's all the same.
Right.
And when you think about it too, the way people relate to pets, you are connecting. We're talking about connections. It's
Right.
it's still a connecting. How can you dismiss a
That's
connection?
right. Well, many
know?
people ask, do we see our pets again? Because there is such a sadness when you lose them.
Definitely.
But that
Definitely.
consciousness has to keep going on. And I think, too, sometimes that our pets who pass over are born again in the pets that come to us.
I've seen that. I've seen that many times with some of my
Right.
clients. The connection that you start here continues.
Right.
It does not end. If you can get any message from our conversation, know that the connection that you start in this life continues. It moves through the ether, the void, and somewhere along the line you're reconnected.
And when you do messages from pets,
Yes.
what will you get? Just that they care about the person?
No, you know, sometimes I've heard, like just recently, I looked right at a woman and said, "Your dog's here." Like this,
Okay.
and you know, and I look to the audience and say, it's not like I'm talking to the dog, but I am talking to the dog, and
Right,
you know,
yes.
and I described the dog to her and how that dog passed away, and she understood the story.
Okay.
So she knew that something must have been happening.
For you
or-
to see the
for-
exact dog.
Right, you know.
Describe. And the dog
There were
just wanted...
60 people in the room,
Right.
and I'm standing in front of this one woman who's there in that room to receive a message from her dog.
Right.
And so I knew that it was
And
meant
it's
to
just
be.
that the dog...
It was something that she needed at the time too.
Yes.
That's the other point
Yes.
that we have to make
It's
because
because she needed it.
I think it works that way. You could be in a grocery store and someone turns around and says something to you that changes your day too, or vice versa.
Right.
You can say something to someone else.
Right, right.
You know?
You know, I was standing in front of another woman, and again, there were a lot of people in this room, and I said, "Bud is here," and she started to cry. Her
Oh,
father's
okay.
name was Bud. You know,
Okay.
why do those things come? They come because you're ready, the channel is open, and
And the
they're
other
ready.
person, the
Yes.
other person must have a lot of love to
Right,
come through to the person.
right. It takes a
But
lot
they
of,
need the channeler like you to come through.
you know, I do tell everyone I meet,
You can do it too.
you don't need me, I'm just the middleman. You don't need the medium or the channeler.
Okay.
What you need is an open heart,
Open
a
heart.
readiness, a quietness, a focus. Just listen for a few minutes. Don't ask a lot of questions. Really just be a
It's
channel
listening.
yourself. It is
Not
listening.
the question,
No.
it's the
listening.
listening. Yes.
Yeah, it is listening. And
Yeah.
also, I think that it's just knowing that we want to see someone or that we want to talk to them. If we remember them and if we think of them, they are there.
Yeah, I believe that if you're thinking of them, they're thinking of you.
I do.
I
Yes.
believe there's something
I
happening
think there's
there.
something
You know,
happening.
there's already something going on,
Right.
and maybe we cannot articulate that or
Right.
understand it at this
Right.
time in life, but I think something is already happening.
Yeah.
I feel like my father has never really left me, that he's always been my guide, and he died when I was 23.
Wow.
And so I feel like I'm keeping him looking in on
Yeah,
me.
you know, and I must tell you though, when you're talking about him, I'm not feeling as if he's stuck. I'm
Right.
feeling like he's very free to
Okay.
be with you. That he
Okay.
also goes to others and he does
Okay.
other things, but that he has that freedom now that he didn't have in the physical plane.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Yes.
now he has this ability to be very fluid
Yeah.
in his spirit, in his
That's
soul.
what I wanted, because I wouldn't want to keep him because I
It's
think
like
of
you were
him.
forcing him to stay.
Like I'm forcing him to stay.
I have met other people who I felt who were really holding their
Somebody
loved
back.
ones down,
Yeah.
if you will.
Right.
And once you release
Right.
that energy, they're more accessible to you.
And
They're
truly
also
believe
more
that.
free too.
Yeah.
The
Yes,
person's
Right.
vice versa again.
Definitely,
Yes.
there's a
Well, you
wonderful
know,
sense of
someone I
freedom.
was very fond of in my youth was my doctor. He was a country doctor, and I wrote a poem about him, and it's going to be published in a magazine back in my hometown. But it's just that he didn't have children of his own, and so I felt we, the children of the town, were his children. And I don't even know what made me write that poem, but here it must be 40 years after
Wow.
I wrote the poem that it'll be back in my hometown in a
He must have
magazine.
inspired you to write that. He must have
Oh, he did.
plant a message of something inside you
right.
for you to create
I
that.
see.
Yeah, he wanted me to be a good student. That's what he wanted. He was always.
And you did what you were told.
Then I did what I was told.
That-
No, he wanted me to be a good student from the time that I was 2.5. He would try to program me to learn French by looking around the room, read
Wow.
the contents of the book.
Wow.
I mean, to study hard, to pay attention.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is.
He must have inspired you, even at this level, where he is now,
Right.
and your connection
Right.
now must have inspired you
Right.
in incredible ways.
Yes.
I know heaven is out there, and I know it's in me. And I know that if you have the courage to see it, extraordinary things can happen.
Do you hear anything about music? Or the reason I ask is some people seem to relate to music on a very advanced level, and I wonder if it's spiritual. Did you?
Absolutely. It's almost another dimension or another level up is what it feels like to me.
Okay.
Sometimes I hear singing in my
Okay.
head, and I know there's a higher vibration coming through.
That's
Sometimes I hear the Om sound, and I know
Right.
there's a higher energy coming through.
So when you're hearing the singing first, does that mean pay attention? Is
It
that what you're
definitely-
telling
yeah,
me?
it's a sign.
calling you.
sign.
It's a
Yeah.
call.
It's a
Okay.
Yeah. Some people hear a bell. Some people. I used to hear a knock on a door. That's how I knew somebody
Okay,
was coming
people
through.
say that. Oh, I'm going to mention that to them.
Sometimes it's just a
Oh.
sensation, and you know. So it's not always an auditory. It could be a
Right.
sensation. It could be a visual.
Could be a feeling. Okay.
Could be anything.
Well, I've heard music in the house, and I thought I was going cuckoo. So
Yeah.
now you've cleared that
Yeah,
up.
I don't
Right.
think so.
Yeah, to hear music, it's and you're very intuitive, so that would make sense.
Well, I would say, sounds like I'm hearing music, and then I would look around, but there was, and then the moment would pass. I didn't realize it's to pay attention
yeah,
time.
but
So-
but it's that the barrier is just very low at
Yes,
that point.
Yes.
the veil is thin.
The veil is
And when
thin.
this comes, your
Oh.
job is to listen.
Yeah.
Your job is not to ask a million questions. What should I do about my job? What should I do now? It's to
Right.
really receive that gift.
It's time to
Right.
receive.
It's time to receive. It's time to
okay.
listen, to make the connection.
And probably the more that you don't ask for an involvement, personal involvement, you get messages that are worth to you.
I spend my every day
Right.
writing messages. I'm not personally involved with those messages, but
That's
they
right.
come in ways that I can't even describe to here. They just
And
come
you're
incredibly.
reinvigorated because of that connection.
I am. I am.
Yeah.
Absolutely am.
And you know what to do in your own life because you are following the guidance that you give others. You give others guidance, but
Yeah.
it's also coming
It's easier
to you.
to listen to for someone else
Right.
than it is for myself.
Right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
No,
But
but
it-
explain why, I hear that often. Explain to me why you say that.
Because I'm
Emotionally
it's me.
invested.
I'm not emotionally attached to you or to your message.
Right.
When it's about me, you start to
The questioning thing.
questioning the thing, and you
That's
have to
right.
rethink it and hear it and be patient with what you're hearing. But it's
like
the
in-
emotional attachment to it
In the
all.
morning, you very often get an insight.
Yes.
And if
Absolutely.
you start to wake up, then you say, oh no, that's not right. I don't think that's what I should do. But that insight is from spirits that have come into you in the night because they don't have bodies. They can come and inspire you.
That's the time when they're the most free.
Yes.
Is at night, and when you are in sleep and slumber, that's when they really open the channels for communication. So the minute you get up, you should write.
Right.
You should experience what they have sent you.
You know, I believe that's true, writing, because even if you don't consciously realize what you're writing, you should
Right.
just let it flow.
Absolutely.
I
let it flow.
encourage people to write daily, even if it's one sentence.
That's right.
Put
Absolutely.
it in the calendar, in the small spot of the calendar.
Right when you get up, go to a journal beside your bed
That's
and make a statement, make a connection.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of ways to open the channels. But everyone says to me, how do I do this? How can I get
Right,
there?
right.
I mean, have been doing it for 30-something years since I've been a
Right.
kid, but I can tell you that listening is the key. That is the secret
key.
If you're looking for a secret answer or something to get there, it's really by listening to
You know,
the
maybe
inner
you can
spirit.
help too, because there are people out there in the audience that they have chatter mind, that their minds are always going. Do you have a little antidote
I do.
that you do?
I
Oh,
do.
great.
And what I do is I do this. I place my hands together like this. And I focus all of my energy just on the tips of my middle
Oh,
fingers.
Okay.
And then I realize that I just become this energy, the gentleness that I feel in my middle fingers. And
I see.
and then all that distraction and chaos just seems to
You just
disappear.
focus, again,
So
that
it's just-
focusing
It's
thing.
really, really focusing. I mean, you could
I see.
focus your hands like this. You could take a rose and stare at a rose. But you really have to change the vibration from this to that
To that.
gentle
Right.
quietness.
You need to do something, which is meditation, when you focus
do.
on something.
You do. This is no easy task, let me tell you.
Right,
To maintain the connection and maintain the focus, you have to work at it.
right.
This is like going to work every single day.
Practice.
And
That's
it's
right.
practice, and it's
Practice.
building it up and making you strong spiritually.
And being still before you get up
Absolutely.
and get rushing around.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank
Definitely.
you, Roland. You've
Thank
given
you.
us a wonderful message of stillness and listening and living simply, really, and
Thank you.
trying to connect daily with the other world. Thank you, Doris Ann,
Thank you.
for
Thank you
co-hosting.
very much.
Thank you for watching us on Psychic Holistic Spotlight.